Okay, guys, we're gonna try something new today for our review. Instead of me standing in front of a whiteboard, I actually printed out a review sheet, and I'm going to use my pens and my colored pens and stuff just to write right on it. So you're gonna see me actually physically doing it. So I thought that'd be kind of a cool new way of seeing it. So at this point right now, what I would say is if you want to stop the video, pause the video, get out some paper, and write these questions down and just try to do maybe the first five. Just do the section 5.1 at this point. Try to do the first five, pause the video, and then once you're done and you've tried those, then come back, press play, and watch me do them. It's going to make much more sense. It's going to be very much more helpful if you've tried all of them on your own. Even if you're not sure, even if you think you don't know how to do it, at least put down something for each question. And that way you can at least see what you know and what you don't know how to do. It's going to be more beneficial for you in the long run to actually try it on your own. Just watching me do a bunch of math problems is not going to get you better at math. You do need to do them on your own. So, and then kind of learn from your mistakes. Tomorrow is going to be the test. So you want to make sure that you can, do as many as possible today. And then if you have any questions, make sure you get your questions answered today or tomorrow before the test, so that you are prepared. Okay. So we're going to get started. Like I said, though, if you haven't already, go ahead and pause the video, write down the questions, and try them. Okay, so the first set, we learned about the properties of exponents. And so when you have the base the same like this, so we have 5 and 5, you keep the base the same of 5, and then you add the exponent. So you might want to write yourself a little note. 3 plus 4 is 7. And you don't have to show any work. You can just add 3 plus 4 and make 7. So your answer is 5 to the 7th power. It works the same way with number 2. You're going to do 2, 4, and if we're missing an exponent, it's always a 1. So go ahead and write that 1 in so you don't forget. And x, the bases are all the same, so they're going to stay in x. So it doesn't matter if it's a letter or a number. If it's 5s, it stays a 5. If they're x's, it stays an x. And then you're going to add up all three numbers. 2 plus 4 is 6, but don't forget about the 1. A lot of people forget that 1. So 2 plus 4 is 6, and 1 more is 7. So it's x to the 7th power. The next type of property you learned is this power to a power property. Now this one's different. You only have the base of 4 once, so you're going to keep the same base, but you don't have it in a row like you do over here. You have 3 and then another exponent of 6. One power to another power. So that's why we call it power to a power. And the rule for that was to multiply. So now you're not adding, you're going to be multiplying. So be careful. Adding, if you were to do 3 plus 6, you would get 9. That might be a question, or that might be one of the answers on the test, but it's wrong. Make sure you're doing 3 times 6, which is 18. Okay? Let's go to number 4. Number 4, we're going to take the 3 and we're going to give it to everything inside. We're going to give it to the 2, the x, the y, and the 6. The 2, the x, the y, and the z. I was already multiplying these to get 6. So we got 2 to the 3rd. Then we're going to do it to the x, but the x already has a 4. So power to a power, we have to do back over here. We have to do 3 times 4, which is 12. Do the same thing with the y, but the y just had nothing there. So technically it's a 1. So 3 times 1 is just 3. Or you can just add it to the y just like you added it to the 2. And then the z, that's how I got the 6, was 2 times 3, which is 6, power to a power. Okay, and at this point, you could simplify that. You should memorize that. That was in the notes. 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, so not 2 times 3. not 6, but 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. Sorry, my dogs just barked and it threw me off. X to the 12th, Y to the 3rd, Z to the 6th, those all can stay the same. These are both correct answers, but usually if it's something simple like this, I will change it to the 8. And then the number 5 is going to basically take both properties, this property where you're adding and another property where we learn to subtract. So I'll show you that. We're just going to work with the top right now. The -6 stays the same, and when it's negative, you keep it wrapped up in parentheses like that. You're going to add 3 plus 3 is 6. But now we have this -6 to the 2nd power on the bottom. So think back to section 5.1, and what do you do with those two powers? So now the bases are the same. We're going to keep it -6 wrapped in parentheses, but when one's on top and one's on the bottom, you subtract. 6 take away 2 is 4. And that would be the answer for that one. Okay, so at this point, I would encourage you to look those over. If you got any wrong, just kind of figure out what you did wrong. If you're still having trouble, please let me know so I can maybe explain it better to you more individually. Now go ahead and pause the video again and copy down 6 through 10. Actually, let's just do 6, 9. Yeah, just worry about 6 and 9. Okay, so go ahead and try 6 and 9. And then pause the video, go ahead and try them, and come back and check your answers. Okay, so hopefully you did number 6. Number 6 is probably the easiest question on the test. Anything to the 0 power, it doesn't matter what's in here, anything to the 0 power, no matter how ugly it is always 1. Not 0, 1, okay? And if you don't believe me, type in 3 to the 0 power in your calculator. Type in 5 to the 0 power in your calculator. Type in 125 into the 0 power in your calculator, and they will all come up 1. Okay, so no matter what's in here, if it's to the 0 power, it is 1. Now 0 is a common mistake. People see the 0 here and think the answer is 0, so be careful. That might be an answer on the test to try to throw you off. So just be really careful with that. Number 9, you're doing a scientific notation problem, and you'll have a couple of those on your test, and you're just moving the decimals. Okay, so right now the decimal is here, and we're going to move it to we don't care about the zeros, we're going to move it to the first number, behind the first number. So behind this first 3, and we're going to count how many times we move it. So now our new number, if we don't look at the zeros, is 3.0146. You can look at this 0 because it's in the middle of numbers, but any of the extra zeros we just get rid of. It's always times 10. That's no matter what. That's the only time you'll see the X as a time symbol. So it's times 10, and that's only when you're doing scientific notation like this is when you'll see that X as multiplication. Normally from now on in algebra, you'll be using a dot for multiplication. But for scientific notation, it's kind of old school, and we go back to the X. So now we're going to count how many times the decimal moved from here to here. So you're counting the jumps, not the zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps. And the number is a very small number. If it's a very small number, it's going to be a negative. If it was a very large number and I moved it the other direction, it would be positive. But right now, because I'm moving it to make it because it's a very small number and I'm moving it to the right, it would be a -5. If I was moving the other direction to the left, it would be a +5 and a very big number, like 3 million or 3 billion. Okay, so look those over. Let me know if you have any questions on 5.2. 5.3, number 11, there would be normally a graph here, but I'm not going to worry about that right now, so you can cross that one off. And let's look at some of these substitution problems. You're not going to have a lot of these, and in fact, you can use whatever method you want. So we learned 3 methods. We learned graphing, substitution, and we also learned elimination. I don't care how you answer the questions on the test. It's totally up to you. It's going to be a multiple choice test, so however you get to the right answer, I don't care. However, on the test, it will make suggestions. So this one, it says solve the linear system using substitution. I recommend substitution here because all of this stuff here, oops, let me get the right pen. All of this stuff here is equal to x. So it'd be very easy for me to substitute y plus 2 down here for x. And so that's why I would recommend substitution. This one, they recommend graphing. I would recommend graphing for this one because y equals mx minus b or plus b. Okay, so this one's in a good slope-intercept form, so we can graph the -7 and then up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and it's a simple way to graph it. This one's not ready to graph, so I probably wouldn't want to use graphing because y is not by itself, like down here. And then, of course, we have the elimination, which will be on the next paper, and that's when everything kind of like lines up, and I don't have any here that really line up. Maybe this one. So see how the x's line up, the y's line up, the equal signs and the numbers kind of all line up. This one might be better to do elimination rather than substitution. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys how you want to get to the answer. Like I said, I don't care how you get to the right answer as long as you get to the right answer. So whatever method you want to be doing, but make sure you are working these problems out on paper or on the worksheet. There's no way you can just look at this problem and try to get the right answer by looking at it, okay? I've been doing this for years, and I cannot look at this problem and tell you right now what the answer is. There's just no way. So please make sure you are working these problems out. The more you write, the more you will remember. Okay, so I'm going to have you just try number 12, and we will skip the rest. Okay, so let's just do number 12 to make it a little easier on you. So this time, pause the video. You can use whatever method you would like. I recommend substitution for this one, but you can use whatever you'd like. And then come back once you've tried it and check your answer. Okay, so hopefully now you've tried it, and we're going to substitute the x. So x is equal to y plus 2. Y plus 2 is the same thing as x. So where this x is, I'm going to leave a blank, and I'm going to keep everything else the same in the second equation. So x plus 2y equals 11. You'll notice all I did was I rewrote this second equation, but I rewrote it here, and instead of x, I just put a big parenthesis here, and I left a blank. Now, what do you think is going to go in that parenthesis? Whatever x is equal to. So x is the same as y plus 2. So I got rid of the x and I replaced it with y plus 2. Now what I did was, instead of having x and y now in my second equation, I have both letter y's. So now I can figure out what y is. I don't have two letters to worry about. So now if there's a number out in front, like if there was a 2 or a 3 here, you would have to do 2 times y, 2 times 2, or 3 times y, 3 times 2, whatever's out in front. But since it's just kind of like an imaginary 1, there's really no reason for it. I don't need to add, okay? But I could do 1 times y, which is 1y, and then 1 plus 2 is 2. Do you see how it doesn't really change it? Now I still have the plus 2y and equals 11, and I'm just going to kind of combine my like terms. So 1y plus 2y is 3y, plus 2 equals 11. Now I'm kind of running out of room, so I'm going to bring this up. 3y plus 2 equals 11, just so I got more room to work. Hopefully you got, a worksheet of your own, or you're doing an online paper. Okay, so now I'm trying to get rid of the plus 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. 3y equals 11, take away 2 is 9. And now my last step is to divide by 3, because I'm trying to get y by itself. 9 divided by 3 is 3. So that's half of my answer. Remember, your answer is always x, then y. Okay, so I found my y, which is 3, and that's going to go in the second spot of my answer. Even though I found it first, it still goes second because y goes second. Now I need to figure out what my x is. So I'm going to take this 3, which is equal to y, meaning 3 and y are the same thing, and I'm going to substitute it again here. That's why it's called substitution. So the 3 goes back over here. So I'm going to put a 3 right there, and you can probably just do this in your head. 3 plus 2 is 5. So now x equals 5, and I come over here and I put the 5. So the last part's super easy. You just take your one answer with your one letter, replace it over here, and 3 plus 2 is 5, and you get your other answer. So all that goes for number 12. It's kind of a lot, but once you get the steps down, it is the same steps over and over and over again. So on the quiz tomorrow or the test tomorrow, it will be the same question. These numbers will just be slightly changed, okay? Now, if that's not making sense, pause the video, rewind it, go back to the beginning, and watch me do it one more time, or even maybe 2 or 3 more times until you learn the steps. If you're still getting tripped up on it and it's really still frustrating you, please reach out and let me know so I can help you before your test. Okay, so then we're almost done. We're going to look on the next page, which is elimination. I won't do all of these eliminations for you. I'm just going to do the first one, number 16. So you can cross out the rest of them, 17, 18, 19, and 20. They're all about the same, and we'll just do this one first. So I like this for elimination because the x's line up, the y's line up, the equal signs line up, and the numbers without letters also line up. So I would definitely recommend elimination for this one. Same thing here, everything's lined up. Everything's lined up here as well. Okay, you can use a different method, but why would you when everything's lined up? Elimination is much easier. So now look and see if your x's eliminate. Do 9x and 9x eliminate? No, but close. Let's look at the y's. We've got 2y, and this is like a 1y. 2y and 1y are definitely not the same number even, so those don't eliminate at all. Let's go back to the x's. They eliminate, but really they don't yet. We need one positive and one negative to eliminate. Well, you can't just change one symbol. You got to change this negative to a positive and this positive 25 to a negative 25. If you're going to change one symbol, you've got to change all 3 symbols in that equation. Now that you've changed all 3 symbols, you haven't really changed your problem. You just made it easier for you to do elimination with. So now the 9x and the negative 9x eliminate, so they cancel. That's why we call elimination. And you just add straight up and down, or in this case, you would subtract. So you've got positive 2y and positive 1y because you changed that to a plus. So 2 plus 1 is 3y's. And over here, you've got 4 take away 25. So how I think of it is I have $4 in my wallet, but I'm trying to buy something at the store that's $25. Okay, I'm definitely short. How much money am I going to have to borrow? Well, I'm going to have to borrow $21 because I'm $21 short. So since I have to borrow, it's negative. And now the last step, you just divide by 3, and at this point, you probably know your answer already. Negative 21 divided by 3 is negative 7. Now remember, it's always x and then y. So my answer is going to be the negative 7 second because y always goes second. Don't forget and just stop here. You need your x still. So we need to still figure out what this number is. It is going to be a multiple choice test. So if only one of them have a negative 7 in the second spot, then you know it is right. But it's always great to go back and double check it. Now, if multiple answers have negative 7 in the second spot, then you're definitely going to have to do this next step. Or if you have anything that says negative 7 in this spot, don't think that that's the right answer. It must be in the second spot because y is second. So now what you're going to do is you're going to take the y and replace it with negative 7. And you can go back to either equation. I'll just go to the top equation because it's not as messy with all these kind of different negative symbols. But either will work. So we've got 9x plus 2y equals 4. So all I did was I rewrote this equation, but since I know what y is, I left a blank here and I made a parenthesis. Now what goes in that parenthesis? The negative 7. So I'm going to put -7 in that blank. So instead of y here, I replaced it with a -7. And now you just do the simple algebra that you learned back in part A. So you keep your 9x. You're going to multiply these numbers. 2 times -7 is -14. And then equals 4. We didn't touch that. We just brought it straight down. Now this should be a simple two-step problem you learned in the very beginning of part A of algebra. The opposite of minusing 14 is adding 14. 9x equals, you're going to add here, 4 plus 14 is 18. And then, of course, the last step would be divide by 9. 18 divided by 9 is 2, and you come over here and answer with a 2. So now your answer, your full-fledged final answer is 2, -7. Again, if that doesn't make sense, pause it, pause the video, rewind, go back and watch this a couple more times until you get familiar with the steps, and then maybe go and try some of these and let me know if you have any questions. Now, I'm going to show you one more thing and then we'll be done with the review. This says solve the linear system. It doesn't say which method. You could do graphing, you could do elimination, or you could use substitution. There's 3 different ways. Now, what method do you think you're going to use here? Okay, well, I think you should probably use elimination since everything's kind of lined up. So -4 and +4x, those eliminate. +3y and -3y, well, wait a minute, those also eliminate. Normally, we don't have that. Let me go back to the last elimination problem. The x is eliminated, but we were left with the y's and we found out what y was. Or sometimes the y's eliminate and you find out what x is. But here, both letters eliminated. When both eliminate, you have nothing over there. And then you just add these two. So 6 plus 7 is 13. And what you're going to say is you're going to say true or false. Is 0 equal to 13? No, it's not. That's false. Now 0 is equal to 0. So if you had 0 equals 0, it would be true. If you had 13 equals 13, it would be true. But we have 0 equals 13, which is not true. So it's false. And anytime you get a false answer, your answer is no solution. Now it's going to be a multiple choice test. So you're going to have A will be all real numbers. Or sorry. No, not all real numbers. Wrong section. A will be infinitely many solutions. B will be no solution. And then there might be a C or a D here, but those are obviously wrong. Okay, and you would bubble in B for no solution. So just be careful if it's a multiple choice test that you're answering it correctly based on what possible answers you have from A, B, C, and D. There might not even be a C and D, okay? So if there's not a C or D, please don't obviously choose C or D, okay? This might just be a 50-50 A, B question. And that's about it. We're not going to be working on the last few where we graph the system of inequalities. We didn't get to that topic this time around, so don't worry about that. So just try to go through this review. Let me know if you have any questions, and good luck tomorrow. And then everything will be graded on Friday for you to see your grade, and then we'll start a new chapter on the following week. So I hope you have a great weekend, and I will talk to you guys later.